Look at the stone. Pick it up. Feel the weight of it in your palm. It is cold, dense, and indifferent. It does not care that you hold it. It does not care if you live, or if you die, or if your entire species vanishes into the dust from which it claims to have risen. Run your thumb over the rough surface, over the microscopic scars etched by wind and rain across 10,000 years. To you, this stone is an object, a piece of scenery. But to the earth, it is a record. It is a witness. And if you listen closely to the silence that surrounds it, you might begin to hear what it is trying to tell you. It is a whisper that has been drowned out by the noise of our civilization, by the roar of our engines and the hum of our screens. It is a whisper that suggests a terrifying possibility, one that contradicts everything we have been told about our place in the cosmos. We are taught that this is home. We are taught that we are the children of this planet, born from its primordial soup, shaped by the gentle and chaotic hands of evolution until we fit perfectly into the biosphere. We are told that the earth provides for us, that it nurtures us, that we belong here. But look at the horizon. Look at the violent storms gathering over the ocean, the sheer, crushing pressure of the tectonic plates beneath your feet. Look at the way the sun, our giver of life, burns our skin if we stand exposed for too long. If we are truly children of this world, why does it fight us so hard? Why do we need shelter to survive a single night in the wild? Why does the gravity that holds us down also break our bones and weary our hearts? There is a theory, buried deep in the archives of speculative thought, whispered by philosophers who looked too long at the stars and geologists who dug too deep into the crust. It suggests that we are looking at this all wrong. It suggests that Earth is not a cradle. It is not a garden. It is a filter. It is a crucible. And we are not the masters of this domain. We are the test subjects. To understand the nature of the test, we must first understand the scale of the laboratory. We must strip away the illusion of time that governs our daily lives. A human life is 80 years, perhaps 100 if fortune favors the biology. Civilizations last a few thousand. But the Earth operates on a scale that renders us invisible. Close your eyes and imagine the clock winding back. Strip away the cities, erase the roads, dissolve the forests, watch the continents drift apart and crash back together, grinding mountains into the sky only to wear them down into sand. 4.5 billion years. That is the age of the proving ground. In that incomprehensible span of time, the Earth has not been a static environment. It has been a shapeshifter. It has been a ball of molten slag, a frozen snowball encased in miles of ice, a toxic greenhouse choked with carbon dioxide, and a lush, tropical paradise. It changes the rules without warning. This is the first clue. A stable home does not shift its foundation so violently. A cage, however, designed to test the limits of its inhabitants, changes its parameters constantly. Consider the great silence. We look up at the night sky, scanning the darkness for a signal, a beacon, a sign that we are not alone. We see billions of stars, implying trillions of planets. By all statistical models, the galaxy should be teeming with life. There should be voices in the dark. There should be ruins on the moon, megastructures Dyson-sphered around distant suns. But there is only silence, the static hiss of cosmic background radiation. We call this the Fermi paradox. We ask, where is everybody? But perhaps the question is wrong. Perhaps the galaxy is silent because everyone else failed the test. Or perhaps the silence is artificial. Imagine a classroom during an exam. It is quiet. Communication is forbidden. You are isolated at your desk, focused on the paper in front of you. The door is locked. The proctor is watching, but he does not speak. Is Earth the isolation room? Are we separated from the rest of the cosmos not by distance, but by design. Let us look at the evidence written in the biology of the test subjects. Look at yourself. If we evolved perfectly in sync with this planet, why are we so ill-equipped for it? Most animals have natural defenses. They have fur to keep them warm, claws to hunt, instincts that drive them perfectly through the seasons. A foal can walk minutes after birth. A human infant is helpless for years. We have no fur. We have no claws. Our backs ache because our transition to bipedalism seems rushed, unfinished, a desperate adaptation to a sudden change in variables. Our circadian rhythms drift naturally to a 25-hour cycle, constantly at war with the 24-hour rotation of the planet. It is as if we are tuned to the frequency of a different sun, a different world. We suffer from chronic diseases caused by the very environment we inhabit. We are allergic to the pollen of the plants that surround us. We are prone to depression when deprived of sunlight, yet the sun radiates cancer-causing ultraviolet light that our skin cannot fully block. We feel an innate, crushing sense of separation from nature. We build walls. We pave over the grass. We sanitize the dirt. We spend our entire history trying to insulate ourselves from the mother that supposedly gave us birth. This is not the behavior of a species in its natural habitat. This is the behavior of an organism fighting against a hostile rejection. But if this is a test, what is the objective? What is being measured? To answer that, we must look at the previous participants. We are not the first to walk this path. The fossil record is a graveyard of failures. It is a catalog of those who took the test and did not pass. We see the trilobites, masters of the ocean floor for nearly 300 million years. They were perfect survivors, armored and adaptable. And then the parameters changed. The Permian-Triassic extinction event. The Great Dying. 96% of all marine species were wiped out. The chemistry of the oceans shifted. The atmosphere turned into poison. It was a sterilization, a reset button pressed by the proctor. Then came the dinosaurs, giants, titans of biology. They ruled for 165 million years. They conquered every continent. They grew to sizes that defy modern biology. They were the apex, and then a rock from the sky, precise, devastating, a kinetic strike that ended their reign in a single afternoon, followed by a nuclear winter that starved the survivors. Was it bad luck? Was it random chaos? Or was it the end of a simulation cycle? Imagine an algorithm running a simulation to produce the ultimate organism. It runs the program. It generates the dinosaurs. It observes. It gathers data. It sees that while the dinosaurs are powerful, they are stagnant. They are not developing higher consciousness. They are not building. They are not looking at the stars. The experiment has plateaued. So the scientist terminates the batch. He clears the petri dish. He introduces a new variable. He creates a vacuum for mammals to rise. He adjusts the temperature. He tweaks the oxygen levels. And he waits. We are the current batch. This perspective changes everything. It changes how we view history. It changes how we view the ground beneath our feet. The layers of sediment in the Grand Canyon are not just geological eras. They are report cards. They are the accumulated dust of failed experiments. And now we feel the temperature rising again. We feel the weather becoming erratic. The ice caps are melting. The storms are getting stronger. We blame ourselves, and perhaps that is part of the test, to see if we have the foresight to recognize our own impact. But perhaps it is also the mechanism of the laboratory itself. The difficulty setting is being increased. The heat is being turned up. There is a concept in evolutionary biology called the Red Queen hypothesis, named after the character in Through the Looking Glass. Now, here you see, it takes all the running you can do to keep in the same place. Species must constantly adapt, evolve, and proliferate not just to gain an advantage, but simply to survive against ever-evolving opposing organisms in an ever-changing environment. But on the scale of the Earth as a test, the Red Queen is not just other animals. It is the planet itself. We must consider the human mind. The anomaly. The brain is an energy-hogging, inefficient, overcomplicated organ that causes us endless suffering. It makes us aware of our own mortality, creates anxiety, dread, existential terror. From a purely survivalist standpoint, it is a liability. A shark does not worry about the meaning of life. It simply eats and swims. It is efficient, but we are burdened with consciousness. We are burdened with the ability to ask why. Why would evolution select for a trait that causes so much pain? Unless pain is the point, unless the test is not physical but spiritual or cognitive, perhaps the Earth is a generator of consciousness, a machine designed to pressure cook carbon-based life until it produces a spark of something higher. The pressure is necessary. The suffering is the catalyst. Without the harsh winters, we would not have learned to build fires. Without the scarcity of food, we would not have developed agriculture. Without the threat of predators, we would not have sharpened spears. Every leap in human advancement has been a reaction to a threat presented by the Earth. We are not conquering the planet. We are frantically answering the questions it hurls at us. Question 1. The Ice Age. Answer: fire, clothing, cooperation. Question 2. Famine. Answer: farming, domestication, society. Question 3. Disease. Answer: medicine, sanitation, science. We are currently facing question 4. It is a complex question involving resource depletion, planetary toxicity, and the collapse of the very biosphere that supports us. We are scribbling our answers in the margins, arguing amongst ourselves, procrastinating while the clock ticks down. And the proctor is watching. The proctor is indifferent. Let's go deeper into the geology. Let's talk about the missing time. Geologists know of a phenomenon called the Great Unconformity. In many places around the world, like the Grand Canyon, there is a gap in the rock record. You have rocks that are 500 million years old sitting directly on top of rocks that are 1.2 billion years old. There is a gap of nearly 1 billion years. Gone. Erased. Where did it go? The standard explanation is erosion. That the rock was lifted up and worn away by wind and rain before the new sediment was laid down. But 1 billion years? That is 1/4 of the planet's history. Vanished. It is as if the hard drive was wiped, as if the data was corrupted and deleted to make space for the new operating system. What happened in that 1 billion years? What civilizations might have risen and fallen, leaving no trace but dust? We assume we are the first civilization. We assume we are the pinnacle. But the Earth is old and we are very young. If a civilization as advanced as ours had existed 200 million years ago, and then vanished, what would remain? Our steel would rust away in a few thousand years. Our concrete would crumble. Our plastic would degrade into microscopic particles. After 1 million years, the only evidence of humanity would be a strange layer of chemical anomalies in the sedimentary rock. A spike in carbon, a trace of refined metals. Perhaps the Great Unconformity hides the previous students who sat at these desks. Maybe they failed. Maybe they succeeded and were allowed to leave. This brings us to the concept of escape. If Earth is a test, what happens when you pass? Look at our obsession with flight, with space. From the moment we could stand upright, we have looked at the sky with a desperate, aching hunger. We dream of flying. We build rockets. We strap ourselves to explosives just to break the chains of gravity for a few moments. Why this obsession? Why this drive to leave the only home we have ever known? It feels like an instinct, not an instinct for survival, but an instinct for migration. Like a bird knows when to fly south, humanity seems to know, deep in its collective subconscious, that we are not meant to stay here. We are hatching. The earth is the egg. The shell is cracking. And the atmosphere, the gravity, the radiation belts, they are the membrane we must push through. But the shell is hard. The gravity well is deep. The rocket equation is a cruel tyrant. For every pound of payload, we need massive amounts of fuel, which adds weight, which requires more fuel. It is a trap designed to keep the weak inside. Only a species that has mastered energy, mathematics, materials science, and cooperation can hope to break orbit. You cannot leave the Earth alone. You cannot leave as a savage. You can only leave as a civilization. The test, therefore, is collective. And this is where the horror sets in, because we are failing the collective part of the exam. We are tribal. We are fractured. We fight over the resources of the cage instead of working together to open the door. Walk through a forest. A deep, ancient forest. The air is thick with the scent of pine and decay. Feels peaceful, doesn't it? But look closer. It is a war zone. Every tree is fighting for sunlight, strangling its neighbors with its roots. The vines are parasites. The insects are devouring the leaves. The soil is a battlefield of bacteria and fungi, waging chemical warfare on a microscopic scale. The peace of nature is an illusion. It is a stalemate of violence. We inherited this violence. It is written in our DNA. But the test requires us to transcend it. The test requires us to become something else. To become something that is not of this earth. To reject the natural order of eat or be eaten and replace it with something reasoned, something constructed. If we do not, the earth will do what it has always done. It will sanitize the lab. There are signs that the sanitation process has already begun. We see the collapse of insect populations, the bleaching of the coral reefs, the shifting of the jet streams. The planet's immune system is waking up. We are the virus, or more accurately, we are the failing experiment that is consuming too many resources without producing the desired result. But what if the test is not just about intelligence? What if it is about morality? Consider the sheer amount of suffering that has occurred on this planet. The billions of years of predation, animals being eaten alive, starvation, disease, pain. It is a machine of perpetual agony. Why? A benevolent creator would not design such a system. A chaotic universe might produce it by chance, but the systems are too intricate, too balanced. Gnosticism, an ancient religious movement, believed that the material world was created not by the true God, but by a lesser deity, a demiurge, an artisan who was flawed or perhaps malicious. They believed that the physical world was a prison for the divine spark of the human spirit. They believed that we are trapped here, in bodies of meat and bone, forgetting our true origin. Modern science laughs at Gnosticism, but strip away the religious language and what do you have? You have the simulation hypothesis. You have the idea that this reality is a construct and that the laws of physics are the code. Quantum mechanics hints at this. We know that at the subatomic level, reality behaves strangely. Particles do not exist in a definite state until they are observed. This is the observer effect. It sounds suspiciously like a video game that only renders the graphics when the player looks at them to save processing power. If a tree falls in a forest and no one is there to hear it, does it make a sound? Quantum physics suggests that if no one is there to observe it, the tree exists only as a probability wave. It does not become real until a consciousness interacts with it. This suggests that consciousness is not a byproduct of the universe. Consciousness is the engine of the universe. The test is not for the body. The test is for the observer. let us return to the stone, that cold, indifferent piece of the earth. It has been here for millions of years. It has seen the continents slide across the globe like ships on a dark sea. It has seen the sky turn black with ash. It has seen the ice come and go. Hold it tight. It is a reminder of the stakes. The earth is patient. It has all the time in the world. We do not. We are the blip, the flash in the pan. We are currently standing on the precipice. We have unlocked the power of the atom. We have cracked the code of life itself with genetics. We have built networks that connect every human mind on the planet. We have the tools to pass the test, but we also have the tools to fail it more spectacularly than any species before us. We can destroy the lab. We can burn the classroom down. And if we do, silence. The dust settles. The radiation fades. The CO2 is slowly absorbed back into the rocks. The earth spins on. 1,000,000 years pass. A blink of an eye. The ice caps reform. The forests grow back, covering the ruins of New York, of Tokyo, of London. The concrete turns to sand. The steel turns to rust. The plastic sinks into the sediment to become a thin, confused layer in the geologic record. And then the cycle begins again. New life emerges from the oceans. New forms crawl onto the land. They evolve. They grow. They develop eyes, then hands, then minds. They look up at the stars and wonder, are we alone? They do not know that we were here. They do not know that we failed. Or perhaps they will find something, a relic, a rover on the moon, untouched by the atmosphere, preserved in the vacuum, a golden record drifting in the void, a warning. What if Earth was a test? The question implies that there is a passing grade. But what if the test is rigged? What if there is no passing? What if the purpose of the Earth is not to produce a graduate, but to trap energy? To feed on the struggle? Let's look at the moon, our constant companion, a dead, gray world that acts as a stabilizer for our planet's wobble. Without the moon, Earth's climate would be chaotic and unlivable. It is the perfect size and sits at the perfect distance to create total solar eclipses, a mathematical coincidence so unlikely that astronomers from other worlds would likely find it impossible. The moon rings like a bell when struck by meteors. Some have suggested it is hollow. Is it the observation post? Is it the camera in the corner of the room? It watches us. Every night, its pale face looks down on our wars, our loves, our desperate attempts to find meaning. It pulls the tides, dragging the oceans back and forth, mixing the chemicals of life. It is the stirrer in the beaker, and we are the precipitate. Let's go back to the feeling of alienation, that deep, unshakable sense that something is wrong. You feel it when you look at the stars. You feel it when you are alone in a crowd. It is a longing for a place you have never been. The Germans have a word for it. Fernweh, far sickness, a homesickness for a place you've never traveled to. Why would we evolve a psychological need for a place that doesn't exist? Unless it does exist, unless we remember somewhere deep in our genetic memory or our spiritual memory that we are not from here, that we are exiles. If Earth is a penal colony, then the test is rehabilitation. We are here to learn to play nice. We are here to learn empathy. In a world of tooth and claw, empathy is a disadvantage. It gets you killed. But we developed it anyway. We care for the sick. We protect the weak. We mourn the dead. These are non-survival traits. They go against the logic of the natural world. Perhaps that is the rebellion. Perhaps passing the test means rejecting the rules of the simulation. The simulation says, survive at all costs. The human spirit says, no, I will sacrifice for others. The simulation says, might makes right. The human spirit says, Justice matters. We are fighting the programming. Every act of kindness, every act of art, every moment of selfless love is a glitch in the system. It is a defiance of the harsh parameters of the test. But the system pushes back, creates scarcity to make us greedy, creates pain to make us selfish, creates fear to make us hateful. It is a constant pressure, a gravity of the soul trying to pull us down into the mud, back into the animal state. And we are tired. Look at the faces on the subway. Look at the eyes of the people in the street. We are exhausted. The test is grueling. It grinds us down, but we are still here. Let us explore the mechanism of the reset more closely. We mentioned the dinosaurs and the asteroid, but there have been other resets, more subtle, more terrifying. The Toba catastrophe theory suggests that about 75,000 years ago, a supervolcano erupted and reduced the human population to perhaps a few thousand breeding pairs. We were almost wiped out. We were bottlenecked. Why? Was the previous version of humanity too aggressive? Too passive? Did we need a reboot? Geneticists tell us that all humans alive today are remarkably similar genetically, far more than chimpanzees or other primates. We are all descendants of that small group of survivors. We are the children of the bottleneck. We are the ones who made it through the eye of the needle. What did those survivors have that the others didn't? Adaptability, ruthlessness, imagination. They survived a volcanic winter. They survived a world turned to ash. They hunkered down in caves in South Africa and waited for the sun to return. They told stories in the dark. Stories. This might be the most crucial tool we have. We are the only species that tells stories. We create myths. We create gods. We create futures that do not yet exist. We hallucinate meaning onto a meaningless world. Is this the purpose of the test? To see if matter can dream? The universe is largely dead matter. Dust, gas, rock, plasma. It obeys the laws of physics. It does what it is told by gravity and electromagnetism. It is predictable. But a dreaming mind is unpredictable. A dreaming mind can imagine a world different from the one it inhabits, and then use its hands to build that world. We are the universe attempting to rewrite its own code. But there is a danger in this. If we become too powerful, if we start to rewrite the code too drastically, the system might view us as a virus. There is a theory called the Great Filter. It posits that there is a step in the evolution of life that is extremely difficult to pass, almost impossible. That is why the universe is silent. Most civilizations hit the wall and die. Some think the filter is behind us, that the jump from single-celled to multi-celled life was the hard part, and we are the lucky winners. But looking at the state of our world, looking at the weapons we have built and the atmosphere we are choking, it feels like the filter is ahead of us. It feels like we are approaching the final exam. The geological clock is ticking. The magnetic poles are drifting. The sun is entering a new cycle. The earth is shifting its weight. The walls of the laboratory are closing in. You can feel it, can't you? The acceleration. Time seems to be moving faster. Events are compounding. Crises are overlapping. The complexity of our civilization has become so great that no single human understands how it all works. We have built a machine we cannot control, and the earth watches. The stone in your hand remains cold. Let's descend into the crust. Let's go down past the aquifers, past the roots of the mountains, down into the mantle. A churning ocean of molten rock. The engine of the planet. It drives the tectonic plates, pushing continents together to form supercontinents, then tearing them apart again. Pangaea, Rodinia, Pannotia. These supercontinents are cycles. Every few 100 million years, the land unites, and when it does, the interior becomes a vast, uninhabitable desert. The climate goes extreme. Life dies. We are currently in the dispersed phase. The continents are apart, but they are moving. Slowly, inexorably, they are drifting back together to form the next supercontinent, Pangaea Ultima. The test has a time limit. If we are still here when the continents collide again, we will not survive. We must be gone by then. We must have graduated. We must have built our arcs and sailed into the cosmic ocean. But to do that, we have to solve the paradox of our own nature. We are builders and we are destroyers. We are philosophers and we are murderers. We are capable of immense love and cold-blooded genocide. This duality is the core of the test. Can the rational mind conquer the reptilian brain? Can the frontal cortex override the amygdala? It is a race between wisdom and catastrophe. If Earth is a school, it is a harsh one. There are no participation trophies. The grades are binary: survival or extinction, transcendence or erasure. Consider the artifacts we cannot explain. The megalithic structures of the ancient past. The Great Pyramid, Göbekli Tepe, stones weighing hundreds of tons, moved without wheels, cut with laser-like precision. We are told they were built by primitive people with copper chisels and ropes. But the engineering implies a sophistication that rivals our own. Were they built by us, or were they built by the previous class? Maybe they are the cheat sheets left behind. Maybe they are the warnings scrawled on the desk. Do not trust the sky. Watch the poles. Guard the seeds. We wander through the ruins of our ancestors, taking selfies, not understanding the message. We are like children playing in the wreckage of a tank, unaware of what the machine was built for or what destroyed it. And the silence of the cosmos continues. Let's speculate on the proctors. If this is a simulation or a test, who is running it? Is it a higher civilization? Are we an experiment in a jar on a shelf in a laboratory in a universe with 5 dimensions? Is it AI, a superintelligence from the future, running simulations of its own past to understand its origins? This is the ancestor simulation theory. If we ever develop the computing power to simulate a universe, we will likely run millions of them. The odds that we are in the original universe, the base reality, are 1 in billions. We are almost certainly in a history lesson. Or is the proctor something more abstract? Is it the universe itself trying to wake up? The universe is vast, cold, and mostly empty. But in this tiny pocket, on this wet rock, the universe has grown eyes. It has grown ears. It has grown a voice. We are the way the universe knows itself. But self-awareness is painful. The test is, can the universe handle the truth of its own existence? Can it look in the mirror without breaking the glass? The pain you feel, the backache, the heartache, the existential dread, is the growing pain of the cosmos. And the earth is the womb. It is harsh because birth is harsh. It is violent because birth is violent. You are being squeezed. You are being pushed. You are drowning in fluids, struggling for air, blinded by the light. You think you are dying, but maybe you are just being born. But let's not get too hopeful. Let's look at the possibility of failure again, because it is the most likely outcome. Look at Mars. Mars is the cautionary tale next door. It was once like Earth. It had oceans. It had an atmosphere. It had rivers. We can see the dried up riverbeds. We can see the shorelines of ancient seas. What happened? Its core cooled. This magnetic field collapsed. The solar wind stripped away its atmosphere. The water boiled off into space or froze underground. It became a dead, red husk. Did Mars fail the test? Did life start there, struggle, and fail to escape before the planet died? Is Mars the empty desk next to ours? When we send our rovers to Mars, We are visiting the grave of a sibling. We are looking at what happens when you run out of time. Earth's core will cool eventually. The magnetic field will falter. The sun will expand. The timeline is fixed. The ultimate deadline is set in the physics of stars. We have 1 billion years, maybe less, before the sun boils the oceans. But we might have only 100 years before we destroy the biosphere ourselves. The urgency is real. So what do we do? If we accept the hypothesis that Earth is a test, a filter, a training ground, how do we proceed? We stop fighting the Earth. We stop expecting it to be a paradise. We accept it as a challenge. We accept that the suffering is the friction required for forward motion. We stop fighting each other. Because if you are in a lifeboat or a prison cell or a sinking ship, fighting your fellow inmates is suicide. Cooperation is the only strategy that yields a positive result in the prisoner's dilemma of existence. And we look up. We must reclaim the stars, not as conquerors, but as refugees, as graduates. But there is a final, chilling thought. What if we pass? What if we survive the climate collapse, the nuclear standoff, the AI singularity? What if we unite? What if we build the ships and break the shell and soar out into the galaxy? What if we find the others? And what if we realize that the silence was not because they were dead, but because they were hiding from what lies in the space between the stars, hiding from the proctors? Perhaps the test is not, can you escape? Perhaps the test is, can you remain quiet enough to survive? Maybe the Earth is not a classroom. Maybe it is a bunker, and we are foolishly, desperately trying to open the door. Listen to the wind again. It howls over the stone in your hand. Sounds like a warning. Stay here, it whispers. Stay small. Stay silent. The dark is not empty. The dark is hungry, but we cannot stay. It is not in our nature. We are the explorers. We are the questioners. We are the ones who poke the bear, who light the fire, who split the atom. We will open the door. We will take the test. And whatever is waiting for us out there, we will meet it. But for now, look at the stone. It is the only truth you can hold. It was here before you. It will be here after you. Unless you take it with you. That is the choice. Leave the stone to be ground into dust by the indifferent eons, or take it, shape it, and carry it to the stars. The exam has begun. Pencils up. To understand the severity of the test, we must first accept the diagnosis of the patient. Humanity is suffering from amnesia. We are a species that woke up in a ruined house with no memory of how we got there, or who lived there before us. We walk through hallways lined with the shattered remnants of a past we cannot recall, mistaking the debris for decoration. Consider the fragility of information. We pride ourselves on the digital age. We believe that because we have stored our knowledge in the cloud, it is immortal. But the cloud is physical. It lives in server farms cooling on the edges of deserts and in the basements of skyscrapers. It runs on electricity. If the grid fails, the memory fades. If the magnetic polarity of the Earth shifts, a process that happens periodically, hard drives are wiped. In a single geomagnetic storm, the sum total of human knowledge, from the recipes for antibiotics to the history of the Roman Empire, could be reduced to static. We laugh at the stone tablets of the ancients. We mock their clay cylinders. But they knew something we have forgotten. Stone is the only medium that survives the reset. If you want a message to last 10,000 years, you do not write it in code. You carve it into granite. This brings us to the Great Burning. The destruction of the Library of Alexandria is a cultural trauma we still mourn. But it is a microcosm of a much larger planetary event. The Earth burns its libraries cyclically. It does not use fire. It uses water. 71% of our planet's surface is covered in ocean. But it was not always this way. During the height of the last ice age, around 20,000 years ago, the world looked radically different. Miles of water were locked up in colossal ice sheets sitting on top of North America and Europe. Sea levels were 300 to 400 feet lower than they are today. Close your eyes and visualize the coastlines. Expand Florida until it is twice its size. Connect the British Isles to Europe. Erase the Persian Gulf. Turn it into a lush, fertile valley fed by the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Connect Alaska to Russia. This exposed land, these continental shelves, is an area roughly the size of Europe and China combined. It was the most habitable real estate on the planet. It was low altitude, warm, and rich in resources. If humans were building civilizations back then, that is where they would have built them. They would have lived at the mouths of rivers, just as we do today. New York, London, Tokyo, Shanghai, all our greatest cities are coastal. And then the ice melted. It didn't happen slowly, drip by drip, over thousands of years. The geological record shows us violent, catastrophic pulses. Meltwater Pulse 1A, Meltwater Pulse 1B, walls of water, global sea levels rising by feet in a matter of decades, perhaps even surging in overnight tsunamis caused by the collapse of glacial dams. The basin of the Black Sea, once a freshwater lake, was breached by the Mediterranean, turning a fertile valley into a saltwater grave in a matter of weeks. The memory of this event is likely the seed of the Gilgamesh epic, which later became the story of Noah. Every culture on Earth has a flood myth. The academics tell us these are isolated psychological metaphors for local river floods. But when 500 independent cultures across 5 continents all tell the same story of a world-ending deluge, of a time before the water, we must stop calling it a myth and start calling it a witness statement. The library was flooded. The evidence of our past, the cities, the ports, the roads of the Ice Age, is not missing. It is simply underwater. We are looking for our keys under the streetlight because it is dark everywhere else, ignoring the fact that we dropped them in the ocean. But occasionally, the ocean reveals a ghost. Off the coast of Japan lies the Yonaguni Monument, a massive, submerged rock formation. The mainstream geologists dismiss it as a natural formation, the result of tectonic fracturing. They point to the cleavage planes of the sandstone. They say nature makes straight lines. And they are right, nature can make straight lines. But nature rarely makes right angles, paved pathways, and perfectly symmetrical staircases that lead to nowhere. Swim down to it in your mind. Feel the pressure of the Pacific. Look at the loop road. Look at the totem. Look at the precise way the rock has been scooped out, as if by a giant spoon. If this is nature, it is nature mocking the concept of architecture. If it is artificial, it is a structure built when that land was above water. And the last time that land was above water was 10,000 years ago. If Yonaguni is a ruin, it breaks the timeline. It proves that there was a builder before the accepted dawn of civilization. And if there was a builder, there was a blueprint. This leads us to the paradox of the maps. In 1929, historians discovered a map drawn on gazelle skin, dated to 1513, the Piri Reis map. It was compiled by an Ottoman admiral from older source maps, some of which he claimed dated back to the time of Alexander the Great. The map shows the coast of South America and Africa with surprising accuracy for the 16th century. But your eyes drift down to the bottom of the parchment. There, connected to South America, is a coastline that looks suspiciously like Antarctica. But it is not the icebound wasteland we know. It shows bays, rivers, and mountains. Skeptics say it is just a mistake. They say Piri Reis ran out of room and bent the coast of South America. They say it is Terra Australis Incognita, the mythical southern land that cartographers guessed existed to balance the globe. But in the 1950s, the US Air Force undertook a mapping survey of Antarctica using seismic sounding to see through the mile-thick ice. They found mountain ranges buried deep beneath the glaciers. When they compared these subglacial mountains to the Piri Reis map and to another map by Orontius Phineas from 1531, they found a chilling correspondence. The ancient maps depicted the topography of Queen Maud Land not as it looks today, but as it looks under the ice. How do you draw a map of a continent that has been covered in ice for millions of years? There are only two possibilities. Option A. It is a coincidence of staggering proportions, a random ink stain that happens to match the subglacial bedrock of a hidden continent. Option B. Someone mapped Antarctica before the ice. If option B is true, the timeline of history is not just wrong. It is a lie. It implies a civilization with the maritime capability to circumnavigate the globe and the mathematical sophistication to calculate longitude. Something we didn't figure out until the 18th century, existed in deep antiquity. Who were the cartographers? And where did their ships dock? They docked at the ports that are now 300 feet underwater. They lived in the world that was erased. We must consider the possibility that the Earth is not just a passive stage for these resets, but an active participant. The planet has a heartbeat. We call it the Schumann resonance. We call it the Milankovitch cycles, the wobble, the tilt, and the orbit of the Earth that dictates the climate over spans of 26,000 years. This 26,000-year cycle is known as the precession of the equinoxes. The ancients were obsessed with it. From the Mayans to the Vedics to the Egyptians, they tracked the movement of the stars with an intensity that seems disproportionate for people who were supposedly just scraping by. Why did they care so much about the slow drift of the zodiac? Unless the clock wasn't just telling time. Unless the clock was counting down. They knew the duration of the semester. They knew when the bell would ring. Plato spoke of this. In his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, he describes the fall of Atlantis. We dismiss Atlantis as a fairy tale, a moral allegory. But listen to the specific details Plato provides. He doesn't say once upon a time. He gives a date. He says it happened 9,000 years before the time of Solon. That puts the destruction of Atlantis exactly at 9,600 BC. Now, look at the geological data for the end of the Younger Dryas period, the sudden, violent end of the Ice Age. The date? Approximately 9,600 BC. Plato was not writing fantasy. He was reporting a date that aligns perfectly with the most significant geological cataclysm in human memory. He describes a civilization destroyed by earthquakes and floods in a single day and night of misfortune. This is not a story. It is a memory of the reset. But if the earth wipes the slate clean, does anything survive? Ideas survive, myths survive, and perhaps seeds survive. Let us examine the mystery of domestication. For 200,000 years, Homo sapiens existed. We were anatomically identical to modern humans. We had the same brains, the same hands, the same capacity for language. And for 190,000 of those years, we lived as hunter-gatherers. We moved with the seasons. We picked berries. We speared gazelles. We left no footprint heavier than a campfire. And then, roughly 12,000 years ago, immediately following the cataclysm of the Younger Dryas, something snapped. Suddenly, simultaneously, in pockets around the globe, in the Fertile Crescent, in China, in the Andes, in Mesoamerica, humans started farming. We started building permanent structures. We developed complex religion, hierarchy, mathematics, and writing. Why? Why did we wait 190,000 years to start the project of civilization and then do it everywhere all at once? The standard model says we discovered agriculture. But have you ever looked at a stalk of wild wheat? It is tiny. The seeds are brittle. They shatter and fall to the ground if you touch them, so they can replant themselves. It is useless for harvesting. To get from wild wheat to domestic wheat, You need to select for a genetic mutation that keeps the seeds attached to the stalk, the non-shattering rachis. But in the wild, this mutation is a death sentence for the plant. It can't reproduce. It needs a human to harvest it and plant it. We are told that our ancestors spent generations selectively breeding these grasses. But the transition in the archaeological record appears abrupt. It appears fully formed. It is as if someone handed us the seeds. It is as if the survivors of the previous semester, the ones who passed the test or at least survived the fire drill, came out of the bunkers and taught the new kids how to read. Many ancient cultures claim exactly this. They do not claim to have invented agriculture. They claim it was a gift. The Sumerians said the Anunnaki brought it. The Egyptians credited Osiris. The Viracocha in the Andes. The civilizing hero is a universal archetype. A tall, pale, bearded figure who arrives after a great flood, carrying the knowledge of engineering, astronomy, and agriculture. He wanders the land, teaching the savages how to live, how to stack stones, how to be civilized. We call them gods. Perhaps they were just the upperclassmen. But there is a darker interpretation of the agricultural revolution. If Earth is a test and the goal is to transcend, maybe agriculture was the trap. Look at the skeleton of a hunter-gatherer. They were tall, robust, with strong bones and excellent teeth. Now look at the skeleton of an early farmer. They were short, malnourished, ridden with arthritis, their teeth rotted by sugar and starch. Their life expectancy plummeted. They worked harder, died younger, and lived in squalor, surrounded by the disease of their livestock. Why would anyone choose this? Why trade the freedom of the savannah for the servitude of the plow? Unless we didn't choose it, unless we were corralled into it. Agriculture allowed for population explosions. It allowed for the creation of surplus. Surplus allowed for armies. Armies allowed for empires. Empires allowed for the scaling of the experiment. If you are running a simulation, you need data points. A few million hunter-gatherers wandering the woods provide very little data. They are in equilibrium with nature. Nothing happens. But billions of humans, crammed into cities, fighting for resources, inventing technologies, creating art, waging war. That is a data-rich environment. That is a simulation running at full capacity. Agriculture was the mechanism that turned the earth from a park into a factory of human experience. And what is the product? We go back to the idea of consciousness, of lush, an esoteric concept suggesting that emotional energy is a resource, that our struggle, our fear, our love, and our hate are being harvested. It sounds like a nightmare, but look at the news. Look at history. Does it not look like a machine designed to maximize conflict? Every time we get close to peace, close to a utopia, something breaks. A leader is assassinated. A new ideology emerges. A resource runs dry. The pot is stirred. The stability is sabotaged. Is this the parasitic element of the test? The possibility that the proctors are not benevolent teachers, but hungry wardens? Or is it simply the nature of the filter? To reach the stars, we must overcome our own biology. We must prove that we can handle the infinite energy of the cosmos without destroying ourselves. And the only way to prove that is to give us the power to destroy ourselves and see if we refrain. We are currently standing in the room with the loaded gun. We have nuclear weapons. We have bioweapons. We have AI. The test is live. Let's look at the cheat codes left in stone. Turkey, 1994. A shepherd notices a stone peeking out of the dusty ground. Excavations begin, and the history of the world is rewritten. Göbekli Tepe. The site is dated to 9600 BC. That date again. The exact year of the end of the Ice Age. the exact year Plato gives for the fall of Atlantis. Before Göbekli Tepe, we believed that organized religion and monumental architecture came after agriculture. We thought people settled down, started farming, and then built temples. Göbekli Tepe proves the reverse. The temple came first. Massive T-shaped pillars, weighing up to 50 tons, arranged in perfect circles, carved with exquisite 3D reliefs of scorpions, vultures, lions, and foxes. The workmanship is flawless. There are no learning curves, no smaller, cruder trials nearby. It appears out of nowhere, fully realized. But the most terrifying thing about Göbekli Tepe is not how it was built. It is how it ended. It wasn't destroyed by an invasion. It wasn't buried by a flood. It was buried by its builders. Around 8000 BC, the people who used this site spent years hauling thousands of tons of dirt and rubble to carefully, deliberately cover the entire complex. They preserved it. They packed it away like a time capsule. Why? Why spend decades building a cathedral only to bury it? Unless you knew the sky was falling, unless you knew the cycle was ending, or the neighbors were becoming dangerous, or the proctors were coming to sanitize the area. They buried it to protect it, or they buried it to hide it. Maybe Göbekli Tepe was a machine, not a mechanical machine, but a stone machine, a resonance chamber, a library of star maps. The pillars are aligned to the stars, specifically to the constellation Cygnus and Sirius. They track the precession. They track the wobble. Maybe they buried it so that we would find it. It waited 10,000 years in the dark. It waited until we had the technology to carbon date it, the satellites to map it, and the open-mindedness to question it. It is a message in a bottle thrown across the ocean of time. And what does the message say? The carvings are dominated by images of predators and death. Vultures holding round objects. Skulls? Souls? The sun? There is a sense of warning. A sense that the connection between the sky and the earth is dangerous. Perhaps the test is not about being good. Perhaps it is about being aware. There is a theory regarding the Great Pyramid of Giza. Mainstream Egyptology tells us it is a tomb for the pharaoh Khufu. They tell us it was built with copper chisels and ramps. But walk around the Giza Plateau. Look at the erosion on the Sphinx. Water erosion. Deep, vertical fissures caused by centuries of heavy rainfall. But the Sahara has been a desert for 5,000 years. To get that kind of rain, you have to go back to the end of the Ice Age, back to 10,000 BC. If the Sphinx is that old, then the pyramids might be too. And if the pyramid is not a tomb, since no mummy was ever found in it, and no hieroglyphs were originally carved inside it, then what is it? 8 sides, not 4. The Great Pyramid has 8 sides, visible only during the equinoxes from the air. It is a scale model of the northern hemisphere of the Earth, accurate to within a fraction of a percent. Its location is the center of the world's landmass. Its alignment to true north is more precise than the Greenwich Observatory. It is a geodetic marker. It is a stamp of ownership. Or, it is a stabilizer. Some engineers have suggested the pyramid is a power plant, that the granite chambers were designed to resonate, to create piezoelectricity from the pressure of the stone and the vibration of the earth. A wireless energy grid for a civilization that didn't use wires. If this is true, then the ancients didn't just pass the test. They aced it. They mastered clean energy. They mastered resonance. They lived in harmony with the planet, and they were destroyed anyway. This is the sobering realization. Being advanced does not save you from the reset. The dinosaur was the master of its domain. The Atlantean, if we use that name, was the master of his. The earth erased them both. The mechanism of erasure is indiscriminate. It does not care how high your towers are. In fact, the higher the tower, the harder it falls. This brings us to the cycles of catastrophe, the theory of catastrophism. For 2 centuries, science has preferred uniformitarianism, the idea that change is slow and gradual. Erosion, drift, sedimentation. We like this idea because it makes us feel safe. It means the ground under our feet is stable. But the universe is violent, and the Earth is a target. We are flying through a shooting gallery. Every year we pass through the Taurid meteor stream. It is a cloud of debris left behind by a giant comet that disintegrated thousands of years ago. Most of it is dust. Some of it is pebbles. But buried in that cloud are rocks the size of mountains. We play Russian roulette with the sky every June and November. The Tunguska event in 1908 flattened 800 square miles of forest in Siberia. If that rock had arrived 4 hours later, it would have wiped out St. Petersburg. If it had arrived over London, the British Empire would have ended in a flash of light. That was a small pebble. The ancients were terrified of comets. They called them disaster, bad star. They saw them as omens of doom. We think they were superstitious, but maybe they were just traumatized. Maybe they carried the cultural memory of the time the sky turned white and the oceans boiled. If the Earth is a test, the asteroids are the pop quizzes. They test our vigilance. They test our ability to look up, to predict, and to defend. We are currently failing this quiz. We track less than 1% of the near-Earth objects that could destroy a city. We have no defense system. We have no plan. We are too busy arguing over borders on the map to notice the eraser coming for the map itself. But let's go deeper. Let's talk about the biological reset, the DNA downgrade, junk DNA. That's what scientists used to call the 98% of our genome that doesn't code for proteins. They thought it was garbage, remnants of old viruses, useless code. But recent studies suggest that junk DNA is actually a control panel. It regulates the other genes, turns them on and off. It is the software, and it seems to be heavily edited. There are fused chromosomes in the human genome. Chromosome 2. It looks like 2 ape chromosomes were fused together to create 1 human chromosome. In nature, this kind of fusion usually results in defects or sterility. In humans, it resulted in us. It resulted in a massive brain explosion. It resulted in the ability to speak, to visualize the future, to manipulate symbols. Was this a natural accident? Or was it an upgrade? Did the proctors step in and tweak the code? Subject Group B is failing to develop language, patching the firmware. Or was it a downgrade? Some esoteric traditions believe we were once much more than we are now. That we had telepathy, that we lived for centuries, as the Bible claims the patriarchs did, that we could manipulate matter with our minds, and that this power was stripped from us. We were lobotomized. Our DNA was unplugged. Why? Because we were dangerous. Imagine a child with a loaded handgun. You take the gun away. You put the child in a playpen. You give them soft blocks. We are in the playpen. The physical world, with its heavy gravity and its slow speed of light, is the playpen. We are here to learn how to build with blocks before we are trusted with the power of creation. The limits of physics are the safety rails. You cannot travel faster than light. You cannot create energy from nothing. You cannot reverse entropy. These are the rules of the classroom, but we are starting to push against the rails. Quantum entanglement suggests information can travel instantly. Zero-point energy suggests the vacuum is full of power. We are rattling the bars of the cage. And every time we do, the feeling of strangeness increases. The Mandela effect. The feeling that history is changing behind our backs. The sense of glitch. Is the simulation straining under the load of our curiosity? Let's consider the moon again. But this time, let's look at the time matrix. There is a theory that the moon is broadcasting a frequency that keeps us locked in this perception of reality. A frequency of fear, a frequency of separation. If you look at the history of human conflict, it is irrational. We fight wars that benefit no one. We destroy the ecosystems that keep us alive. We act like a species possessing a collective psychosis. Is this natural, or is it an interference signal? Are we being jammed? If the test is to see if we can overcome our lower nature, then the test must include an antagonist, a force that pushes us toward the lower nature. The devil in religious terms, the reptilian brain in biological terms, the moon matrix in conspiratorial terms. It is the resistance against which we must build our spiritual muscles. You cannot get strong lifting a feather. You need a heavy weight. The earth, the moon, the constraints of biology, these are the weights. And we are the bodybuilders. But the gym is closing soon. The magnetic field of the earth is weakening. It has lost 15 to 20% of its strength in the last 2 centuries. The South Atlantic anomaly is growing, a weak spot in the shield where radiation leaks through. Birds are getting lost. Whales are beaching themselves. The navigation systems of the planet are drifting. When the poles flip, the shield goes down. The solar wind hits the atmosphere. The ozone layer is stripped. The grid goes down. Civilization ends. It is not a matter of if. It is a matter of when. And the ancients knew it. They built their calendars around it. The Mayan long count didn't end in 2012 because they ran out of rock. It ended because it marked the end of an era, the end of a cycle, and the beginning of the transition window. We are in the transition window now. Look at the chaos in the world, the madness in the media, the collapse of institutions. It is not just politics. It is energetic. The frequency of the planet is changing, and the human mind is struggling to calibrate to the new signal. We are shaking, like a plane hitting turbulence as it breaks the sound barrier. Some will not make it. The stress is too high. The fear is too deep. But some will adapt. This brings us to the concept of the new earth, the graduation. Many prophecies speak of a splitting of the world. 2 earths, one that proceeds into destruction and cleansing, and one that ascends to a higher density, a golden age. This sounds like fantasy, but in quantum physics, this is the many worlds interpretation. Every choice creates a branching timeline. Perhaps the test is a sorting mechanism. The frequency you hold, fear or love, despair or hope, determines which timeline you shift into. You are the navigator. Your consciousness is the steering wheel. The earth is not just a rock. It is a mirror. It reflects your internal state back to you as external events. If the collective is full of war, the world is full of war. If the collective heals, the world heals. The test is, can you master the mirror? Can you realize that there is no out there? That the stone in your hand, the stars in the sky, the proctors, the history, the future, it is all happening inside you? But let us return to the ground, to the dirt, because we are not there yet. We are still flesh and blood. We still have to deal with the anomalies of evolution. Let's look at the Rh-negative blood type. Most primates have the rhesus factor protein in their blood. 85% of humans have it, but 15% do not. If an Rh-negative mother carries an Rh-positive baby, her body rejects the fetus. It treats the life inside her as a foreign invader, as a virus. It creates antibodies to attack it. Why? In nature, a mother's body does not attack its own offspring. It is the most fundamental violation of the survival instinct. Unless the offspring is not entirely the same species. Unless the Rh-negative bloodline is a remnant of something else. A separate lineage. a different crop planted in the same field. Some say it is the blood of the gods. Some say it is the blood of the pre-reset civilization. Basque people in Spain have the highest concentration of Rh-negative blood in the world. Their language, Euskera, is unrelated to any other language on Earth. It is a linguistic island. An orphan. Are they the survivors? The ones who remember the language of the time before? We are a patchwork species. Chimera. Part earthling, part something else. Part evolved, part engineered. Part angel, part beast. And the friction between these two halves is what tears us apart. We want to be good, but we are greedy. We want to be free, but we seek security. We want to know the truth, but we prefer the comfort of the lie. The lie is comfortable. The lie says, you are an accident. You are a smart monkey who got lucky. You live, you buy things, you die, and the lights go out. There is no test. There is no meaning. Just enjoy the ride. That is the sedation. The truth is the stone in your hand. The truth is the cold wind. The truth is the silence of the universe waiting for you to speak. The truth is terrifying, because if Earth is a test, then you are responsible for the outcome. You cannot blame the politicians. You cannot blame the gods. You cannot blame the bad luck. You are the student. The paper is in front of you, and the clock is ticking. To understand the nature of the deadline, we must dismantle the clock. We view time as an arrow, straight, linear, flying from the past into the future. We believe that we are progressing. We believe that the caveman becomes the farmer becomes the industrialist becomes the astronaut. We believe the graph always goes up, but the Earth tells a different story. The Earth tells a story of circles, of spirals. The seasons return. The tides return. The planets return to their starting positions. Why should history be any different? The ancients did not believe in linear time. They believed in the great year. The Hindus call it the yugas. The Greeks called it the ages of man, gold, silver, bronze, iron. They taught that humanity does not evolve. It devolves. We start in the Golden Age, the Satya Yuga, where truth is natural, where we live in harmony with the source, where technology is mental and spiritual, not physical. We do not need wires because we are connected. We do not need laws because we have conscience. We do not need writing because we have perfect memory. But then the wheel turns. We move away from the center. The signal gets weaker. We enter the Silver Age. We lose telepathy, so we invent language. We lose the ability to heal with our minds, so we invent medicine. We lose the connection to the free energy of the ether, so we invent tools. Technology, in this view, is not a sign of advancement. It is a prosthetic for a lost sense. It is a crutch for a crippled species. Then the Bronze Age. War begins. Borders are drawn. The ego solidifies. And finally, the Iron Age, the Kali Yuga, the age of darkness, the age of conflict, hypocrisy, and materialism, the age where we measure success by the accumulation of dead matter, the age where we have forgotten who we are entirely. We are in the Kali Yuga now, the very bottom of the cycle, the point of maximum separation from the truth. This explains the paradox of the pyramids. Why are the oldest structures the most perfect and the newer ones cruder? Because the builders of the Great Pyramid were closer to the Golden Age. They still remembered the math of the universe. We are the ones who have forgotten. But here is the twist. The cycle is not a prison. It is a curriculum. The purpose of the Kali Yuga, the purpose of this darkness, is to test if we can find the light when it is hardest to see. It is easy to be good in paradise. It is easy to be spiritual when you are floating in a realm of pure energy. But can you be spiritual in a world of taxes, traffic, war, and cancer? Can you hold the frequency of love in a world screaming with fear? That is the advanced placement exam, and we are nearing the end of the semester. The wheel is turning back up. We are approaching the transition from the Iron Age back toward the Golden Age. But the transition is not gentle. It is a breaking of the mold. We see the signs of this breaking in the thinning of the veil. For centuries, science and spirituality were enemies. Matter and spirit were separate. But now they are crashing into each other. Quantum physics is sounding more and more like mysticism. We are discovering that the solid world is 99.9999% empty space. We are discovering that the atom is not a thing, but a vibration, a frequency. We are realizing that the material world is a hologram. Consider the holographic principle in physics. It suggests that all the information in a volume of space can be thought of as encoded on a boundary to that region. In simpler terms, the 3D world we see is a projection from a 2D source code. We are living in a projection, a hard light construct. If this is true, then miracles are not violations of the laws of physics. They are simply administrative access to the code. The shaman, the yogi, the prophet, they are the hackers. They are the ones who realized that the spoon is not real, and the earth is the server. But the server is overheating. The processing load is becoming too high. We are generating too much data, too much karma, too much noise. This brings us to the omega point, the idea that evolution is driving the universe toward a maximum level of complexity and consciousness. We are hurtling toward a singularity. We see it in technology. We are building the external brain, the internet. We are building the external nervous system, AI. We are trying to build God out of silicon. Why? Because we are trying to leave the womb. We are trying to externalize our own consciousness so we can look at it. But the danger of the technological singularity is that it mimics the spiritual singularity, but without the soul. It is the false ascension. It is the trap within the trap. If we merge with the machine, if we upload our minds to the cloud to achieve immortality, do we pass the test? Or do we fail it forever? To upload your mind is to freeze it, to digitize it. You become a copy, a loop. You exit the cycle of reincarnation, yes, but you enter a static hell of your own making. You become a glitch in the hard drive, repeating the same patterns for eternity, disconnected from the source. The transhumanist dream to become immortal cyborgs might be the ultimate failure state. It is the refusal to let go. It is the refusal to die, and therefore the refusal to be reborn. The earth demands that we trust the process of death. It demands that we trust that we are not the body. If we cling to the body so tightly that we fuse it with steel and plastic, we have missed the point of the lesson. The lesson was, you are not this. So what is the alternative? The alternative is the solar flash. There is evidence etched in the rocks and in the legends of a recurring event from our sun, a micronova. We think of the sun as a stable yellow dwarf, a steady light bulb, but stars pulse, stars breathe, and our sun has a heartbeat. The researchers who study the vitrified forts of Scotland and the Libyan desert glass point to a terrifying conclusion. There are forts in Scotland made of stone that has been melted. Not burned, melted. Granite turns to liquid at 1,200 degrees Celsius. To turn a stone wall into glass requires a sustained heat that rivals a nuclear blast. But there is no radiation, and in the Libyan desert, there are vast fields of yellow glass, pure silica, fused by immense heat. The mainstream says meteor airburst, but there is no crater. The alternative theory is that the sun flares every 12,000 years, a massive coronal mass ejection that strips the ozone, heats the atmosphere, and bathes the surface in plasma. This sounds like the end of the world, but the ancients saw it as the harvest. The Samvartaka fire in Hindu texts, the ekparosis of the Stoics, the fire that cleanses the world. The theory suggests that this flash is not just physical, it is psychospiritual. It is a burst of high-frequency light that interacts with human consciousness. For those who are prepared, for those who have raised their internal frequency, the light is an upgrade. It unlocks the dormant DNA. It activates the pineal gland. It is the moment of graduation, the rapture, the shift into 5D. For those who are stuck in fear, in low vibration, in the heavy density of the ego, the light is fire. It is madness. It is destruction. The same sun melts the wax and hardens the clay. This is the ultimate test. Can you stand in the fire and not burn? Can you face the light of truth without flinching? We are seeing the precursors of this event now. The sun is behaving strangely. It is waking up. The auroras are moving south. The sky is changing color. The proctors are turning on the lights in the exam hall. Pencils down, but we are still writing. We are still frantically trying to finish the essay. We are still fighting over resources, still hating our neighbors, still poisoning the water. We are running out of time to study. Let's talk about the split. As the pressure builds, humanity is bifurcating, splitting into two distinct species. Not biologically, but vibrationally. There are those who are becoming more compassionate, more aware, more sensitive to the truth. They are unplugging from the matrix. They are simplifying their lives. They are seeking community. They are feeling the connection to the earth. And there are those who are doubling down on the illusion, becoming more rigid, more dogmatic, more violent, more obsessed with control. They are merging deeper into the machine. You can see it in your own life. You can see it in your family, your friends. The gap is widening. It is becoming harder to communicate across the divide. It feels like you are living in different realities, because you are. The Earth is undergoing a mitosis, a cell division. One version of Earth is heading toward the technocratic dystopia, a world of total surveillance, artificial food, virtual reality, and spiritual death. A gray world. The other version is heading toward the Renaissance, a world of restored nature, free energy, open contact with the cosmos, and spiritual sovereignty. A green world. You vote for which world you want to inhabit, not with a ballot, but with your attention, with your emotion. If you focus on the fear, you feed the gray world. You anchor yourself to it. If you focus on the love, on the possibility, on the beauty, you anchor yourself to the green world. This is the law of attraction, stripped of its commercial varnish and revealed as a mechanism of quantum selection. You observe the timeline you wish to inhabit, but it is hard. It is so hard, because the gray world is loud. It has the speakers. It has the screens. It screams for your attention 24/7. It wants you to be afraid. It needs you to be afraid, because fear is the gravity that keeps you in the cage. Fear is the frequency of the prison. Love is the frequency of the key. This sounds like a platitude. All you need is love. But in the context of the simulation, it is physics. Love is a higher state of coherence. Fear is high entropy. It is chaotic. Love is low entropy. It is ordered, structured, powerful. The test is, can you maintain coherence in a chaotic environment? Let's look at the hidden curriculum of the earth. The suffering. Why is there so much pain? Why do children die? Why is there cancer? If this is a school, it is a cruel one. But consider the diamond. A diamond is just a piece of charcoal that handled stress exceptionally well. It is carbon that was subjected to crushing pressure and intense heat until its very atomic structure changed. It became transparent. It became unbreakable. It became a refractor of light. The suffering is the pressure. The Earth is the hydraulic press. Without the pressure, we remain coal. We remain soft, black, opaque. We absorb light, but we do not reflect it. The purpose of the pain is to force the transmutation, to force us to let go of the carbon form and become the diamond form. Every tragedy in your life was a squeeze of the press. Every heartbreak, every loss, every moment of despair. It was the universe asking, will you break or will you shine? Most of us break. We become bitter. We become cynical. We shut down. We fail the test of that moment. But the Earth is patient. It will squeeze again. It will keep squeezing until we learn that we are not the coal. We are the light trapped inside it. This brings us to the concept of karma. We think of karma as punishment. You did something bad, so something bad happens to you. Cosmic tit for tat. But karma is simply inertia. It is momentum. If you spin a wheel, it keeps spinning. If you set a pattern in motion, it repeats until you stop it. We are stuck in loops of karma. Cycles of trauma passed down from father to son, from mother to daughter. Nations fighting the same wars for distinct centuries. The test is, can you stop the wheel? Can you be the one in your lineage who says, it ends with me? Can you be the one who absorbs the anger and returns peace? Can you be the circuit breaker? That is what it means to burn off karma. You take the energy of the past, the pain of the ancestors, and you neutralize it with presence. You refuse to pass it on. This is the hardest work a human can do. It is harder than building a pyramid. It is harder than going to Mars. It is the work of the Christ, the work of the Buddha, the work of the simple, quiet person who forgives the unforgivable. This is the PhD level of the Earth School. And what happens if we graduate? What is the forgotten destiny of humanity? We are not just meant to be smart monkeys. We are not just meant to be stewards of the planet. We are meant to be creators. The universe is a nursery, a garden for growing gods. We are being trained to handle the power of manifestation. Right now, our manifestation is slow. You think a thought, and it takes years of hard work to make it real. This is a safety buffer. Imagine if your thoughts became reality instantly. One moment of fear, and a monster appears in the room. One moment of anger, and your neighbor drops dead. One moment of self-loathing, and you cease to exist. We are not ready for instant manifestation. We are too volatile. We are too uncontrolled. So we are placed in the slow realm, the heavy realm. Here we can think bad thoughts and nothing happens immediately. We can practice. We can learn to discipline our minds. We can learn to align our will with the good. When and only when we have proven that we can control our internal state, will we be released from the slow realm. We will be given the keys to the higher dimensions, where thought becomes reality, where we can build worlds with our minds, where we can travel the stars by intention. That is what is waiting for us. That is the heritage we have forgotten. We are toddler gods playing in a sandbox, throwing sand in each other's eyes, crying because we think the sandbox is the entire universe. And the parents are watching from the porch, waiting for us to grow up. But the sun is setting. It is time to come inside. Let's return to the geological evidence one last time. Let's ground this metaphysics in the rock. The Cambrian explosion. 541 million years ago, life on Earth was simple. Sponges, mats of microbes, and then in a blink of geological time, just a few million years, almost every major animal group appeared. Eyes, legs, shells, spines, brains. It all appeared at once. Darwin struggled with this. It defied the slow, gradual logic of natural selection. It looks like an injection, a seeding. It looks like the terraforming team arrived and dropped the payload of life. And now we are in the Anthropocene. the human epoch. We are the new explosion. We are changing the planet faster than the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. We are the event. We are the asteroid. This is the final paradox. We are the danger and we are the savior. We are the virus and we are the vaccine. The Earth is reacting to us. The weather is the fever. The planet is trying to sweat us out. If we want to stay, we must become symbiotic. We must stop being a parasite and start being an organ. Parasite takes. An organ functions for the good of the whole body. We must realize that the Earth is not a rock we live on. It is a body we live in. We are the neurons of the planetary brain. We are the eyes of the world. If we act like cancer cells, multiplying without limit, consuming everything, the host will kill us. It has to survive. But if we wake up, if we start to fire in synchrony, if we start to connect, we become the global mind. We turn the Earth into a conscious being. This is the Gaia hypothesis carried to its ultimate conclusion. We are the mechanism by which the Earth wakes up. And when the Earth wakes up, the test is over. The bell rings. So, where does that leave you? You sitting there, listening to this voice in the dark. You are the witness. You are the observer. You have a choice to make. Not a political choice. Not a career choice. An ontological choice. Do you accept the premise? Do you accept that your life is not an accident? Do you accept that every interaction, every challenge, every moment of boredom, and every moment of terror is part of the curriculum? If you accept it, your life changes. You stop being a victim. You stop saying, "Why is this happening to me?" And you start asking, "What is this teaching me?" You stop looking for a savior to come down in a spaceship or a cloud. You realize that you are the one you have been waiting for. You pick up the stone we talked about at the beginning. It is still cold. It is still heavy. But now it is not just a rock. It is a chip of the old block. It is a piece of the schoolhouse. Hold it. Squeeze it. Transfer your heat into it. Make it warm. This is your job. To bring warmth to the cold universe. To bring light to the dark matter. To bring meaning to the silence. The Earth has erased the civilizations before us because they failed to do this. They became cold. They became hard. They became stone. Do not become stone. Remain soft. Remain open. Remain alive. The hour is late. The shadows are long. The systems are failing. The old world is dying. Good. Let it die. It was a cage anyway. The new world is waiting for the ones who are brave enough to build it. Not with steel and concrete, but with consciousness and compassion. The test is ending. The proctor is walking down the aisle to collect the papers. Have you answered the question? Do you remember the question? The question was not, how much did you earn? The question was not, how much did you conquer? The question was not, how many followers did you have? The question was, did you learn how to love? It sounds too simple. Sounds naive. But look at the physics. Love is the only force that overcomes entropy. Love is the only force that binds. Love is the gravity of the soul. Without it, we fly apart. Without it, we are dust. The earth waits. The sun watches. The galaxy listens. Take a breath. A deep breath. Feel the air filling your lungs. That air was breathed by dinosaurs. It was breathed by the builders of the pyramids. It was breathed by the first humans who looked up and wondered. It is the same air. It is the same test. But this time, maybe, just maybe, we can pass. We have the knowledge. We have the connection. We have the potential. We just need the will. Look at the horizon. The storm is coming. The real storm. The one that washes away the lies. Do not be afraid of the rain. The rain is necessary. Step out into it. Wash the sleep from your eyes. Wake up, for the forgotten earth is not forgotten by the universe. It is the center of the stage, and the spotlight is on you. The script is yours to write. The ending is yours to choose. Will we be the ones who are erased, or will we be the ones who are remembered? The choice is yours.